Go, Alan, run. Get away from these people before it's too late. Hi, thank you for giving a brand new booktuber a chance by clicking on this video. I'm Shelby and this is Shelby Reads. A little bit about me: I'm a femme lesbian who has been married to my beautiful butch wife for 5 years, but we've been together for 12. I primarily read sapphic books, but I overall don't read anything that isn't LGBT+. I'm also a dedicated goth and have 2 animation degrees. Check out my other channel, which is linked below, if you're so inclined to see some of my animated stuff. So before we get started, if you hear my dogs snooting around, we don't hang out in this room a lot, and they're very excited to be in here. Also, if you see me looking down slightly, I have what I wrote out, and I will also put up the book when I'm reading from it. Okay. Today I will be talking about the worst LGBT book I've ever read, called It's Not My Favorite by Rue. This book was published in 2013 and is the first book in the Lake Effect series. It is a contemporary romance that follows 2 sisters, one straight sister going through an emotional crisis and one lesbian sister who is dealing with the fact that her girlfriend, spoiler, cheated on her. Now, to me, this book feels like a period piece because it was published the year I came out, but we'll get there. Say hi to Ginger. This is Ginger. I don't know if you can see her in the camera, but here she is. Before we get started, I just want to give a few disclaimers. This review is for fellow readers and not for the author or stans of this author's work. This review will contain spoilers. I will be going chapter by chapter through this book. I am not bashing sapphic books. I am a lesbian and #1 butch defender. I believe that we deserve well-written books as well as poorly written books. As a lesbian in her 30s, I understand how amazing it is to have access to so many LGBT books, because when I was younger, they were impossible to find and sometimes banned from schools and libraries altogether. However, there are plenty of sapphic books that are just bad, and whether they contain harmful tropes or writing, or just bad in general. No creative work is above critique and review. Last disclaimer, this book makes me angry. If you're not into seeing that, maybe come back for a different video. Just one more thing, in the current political climate, I'm going off script here, ignore me, but in the current political climate, it's very important that we understand the right to be reading sapphic books and LGBT books at all is a huge right. It was incredibly difficult to get books. They are still talking about banning so many books. I'm not saying that this book should be banned just because it's terrible. I just kind of love rant reviews and I want to give the hot goss, you know? This is like my least favorite book I've ever read, so I want to talk about it. Some trigger warnings: body shaming, cursing, fat phobia, homophobia, infidelity, sexual content, toxic relationship, religious bigotry, lesbophobia, outing, alcohol, ableism, biphobia, child abuse, drug use, emotional abuse, incest, racism, stalking, homophobic, lesbophobic, and ableist slurs. These content warnings are brought to you by me, not the author. I think we're all pretty aware that pretty much no authors gave content warnings in 2013. Now, without further ado, let's start the review.
Let's kick off this monster mash!
Prologue. We start the way any good romance should start, with public sex in a workplace. Straight sister Gwen is trying to have a quickie with some guy named Grayson in her office at work. They apparently met at a business mixer. Gwen was in her office, pacing in front of her small desk, when his shadow spilled around the corner. Grayson strode into the room, locked the office door, and salaciously undressed Gwen with his eyes. She shuddered under his gaze. He descended on her like a wolf, devouring its prey. His hands shoved her skirt up, and one hand slipped inside her panties, while the other unbuttoned her blouse. Gwen was moaning and undulating her hips. She could barely concentrate on removing his belt. The leather slapped against her thigh as she yanked it loose. Oh, Grayson, I want. Grayson was way ahead of her. Panties hit the floor, and he was inside of her before she could finish her sentence. Their bodies blended together, and Gwen felt like Grayson was under her skin. The waves of electricity shot through her. She could feel the tide rising and hear the change in Grayson's breathing. He pulled her down harder and harder as he licked the sweet, salty drops of sweat from her boob. Now, I'm not one to kink shame, but I think that public sex in your place of work, particularly when you are the owner of said business, but really anyone, is not the time or place. This is the second book I read last month that had office sex. And look, I understand that reading can be a safe way to explore sexual fantasies, but personally, it makes me cringe anytime someone tries to have sex on the clock in a book. They are thankfully interrupted by knocking on the door. It's her sister, Rachel. Knock, knock, knock. The knocking on her office door was distracting Gwen. No, 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 not now. She was so close. Gwen, open up. You've got the chain on. Come on, freak. It's time to work out. Gwen felt the tide ebbing and watched Grayson evaporate. Just once she would like to finish that dream. God damn it, Rachel. I told you last night I do not want to work out. Gwen stormed out to the hallway, kicked her sister Rachel's toe out of the sliver of space between the front door and the door jamb, and slammed it shut. She barely had the chain off when Rachel burst into the apartment. Rachel's ebony ponytail was bobbing angrily. What the F, Gwenny? Did I interrupt something important? As a matter of fact, you did. I was about 10 seconds away from a very big, finish, you know. Oh, S-H-I-T. No way, you've got a guy in there? Rachel was dumbstruck by the thought that Gwen may have broken her 3-year dry spell. No freak, it was the Grayson dream. Gwen blushed like a radish. Okay, first of all, how can hair bob angrily? Like, I have my hair up. What does this mean? What does it mean? Yeah, it turns out that this was a dream. We just read that, right? Nothing is more annoying than that it was all a dream trope. Now, I have a stepsister who is 10 years younger than me, which is, you know, quite the gap, but I can't imagine talking to either of my siblings about my sex life, including the one who is only 3 years younger than me. While talking, Rachel is chastising Gwen for being a hermit. Rachel is correct when she states hanging out with your employees does not constitute a social life. Gwen runs an organizing company called The Organizer.
Morals for spring. Groundbreaking.
Yet her apartment is messy because she's so quirky. But don't worry if you thought one of these siblings would be tolerable. You were wrong. Rachel spun around to see Gwen shoving an entire glazed donut into her mouth. How dare you, Gwenny? You know how much I hate donuts. You're just standing there tormenting the fat kid trapped inside these Lycra running pants. B-word. It's the real word. We're trying to skirt around YouTube, okay? Rachel stuck out her lower lip and put her hands on her toned, shapely hips. Now, I know we were all cringe in 2013, but this is too much. I was 19 years old, and even I wasn't this insufferable. Rachel and Gwen are talking about why Gwen's apartment is so messy, even though she runs an organizing business. Here's why. It's just me here. I spend every day organizing other people's S-H-I-T. I organize them because I can't. Since Jasper left, I just put everything into work, and this apartment is just the pod where I recharge my automation batteries. This is such unrealistic dialogue. She hasn't been with anyone in 3 years. Her sister, as we come to find out, is a huge part of her life. There's no way she hasn't seen how messy the apartment is / has been for the past 3 years. This is just a lazy background knowledge dump for the reader. As they're hugging before, Rachel leaves, we have to do a drive-by on their mother because, of course, there have to be mommy issues since it's 2013. No judgment here, I get it, but come on. It's a little boring, right? Gwen does not go on the run with Rachel and doesn't want to go to a Halloween party with Rachel. Absolutely riveting stuff. Chapter 1. It's Halloween, and we have to get truly terrible paragraphs about what Gwen looks like. Gwen Hutchinson tucked an unruly strand of her copper brown hair back under her leather flight helmet and stared through the fractals of frost on the window of the downtown office complex community room. The lights of the city flickered through the falling snow, and beyond them was the gaping black void that was Lake Superior. Some days Gwen found comfort in the huge waves or the glint of sunshine off the water, but not tonight. The disconsolate, brumal blackness matched her mood perfectly. She rolled her intense hazel eyes at the plethora of cleavage spilling forth in the room, and beamed inwardly at the sensible costume she had procured by combing through the bins at the second-hand clothing store. We have to slut-shame other women because we're not like other girls. Typical. Gwen usually skips the Halloween party, but her sister Rachel made her come. We then get more appearance dump about Rachel. Gwen glanced appraisingly at Rachel's sexy witch costume. Thigh-high leather boots, fishnet stockings, and a short, velvety cape were the perfect accents to the tiny black bustier dress. Rachel's ebony hair was caught up into a pair of loose braids that emphasized her new dark cherry streaks. Her pointy black hat was festooned with spiders and silver stars. Rachel's costume even smelled new, not a whiff of bargain basement cast off. Rachel is making fun of Gwen, and we get to have this beautiful comeback. I'm Amelia Earhart Rach, not Elmer Fudd. What are you? The wicked bitch of the West. Ha, 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 ha. Rachel ignored Gwen's jibe. Wow, Amelia Earhart, that should get the guys lining up. Or maybe you're changing teams? Rachel's eyes twinkled as she teased Gwen. Hey, I don't try to push my hetero tendencies on you. I know that straight people still think this is funny. I know they do. But it was never funny. I know in this context that it's sisterly teasing, but these characters are insufferable, and I don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I hate them. We then get exposition dumped about how Rachel has been openly gay for 10 years, but isn't out to their parents. Their mother is a religious bigot. Gwen says Rachel never bothered to tell their mother, which is grossly underestimating the difficulty of coming out to religiously bigoted relatives. It's dismissive and gross, quite frankly. Gwen then finished by telling us that Rachel sometimes still needs loans from their parents, but that Gwen doesn't think that they would give her money because she's going to hell. This ignores that Rachel has to keep something important about her life and identity a secret because she financially cannot afford to do otherwise. Rachel brings Gwen a drink, and Gwen is judgmental about the crowd because apparently she has nothing better to do. Look, I'm a bitch. I'm judgmental. I get it. But this is just on top of the rest of her horrible personality. We are back to slut-shaming immediately when she describes what her employee Thea is wearing. She is, oh, I wonder if I could recruit her. Rachel twirled her sparkly black wand and sighed. This is about Thea, by the way. I warned all of you that this was going to go downhill quickly. This is a disgusting trope about lesbians being predatory. Most lesbians don't want straight women. I would even argue that most lesbians don't even want to be friends with straight women. Straight women have a tendency to fetishize gay men, but demonize gay women. This is not across the board, obviously, not all straight women, but we all know some, right? Many lesbians have an experience of changing in a stall in gym class or at the gym, so no one would think they were predatory. This trope was also used as a way to socially ostracize lesbians from other women. It is lesbophobia, plain and simple. We know the majority of crimes against women are perpetrated by cis straight men. I think that non-lesbian authors should be required to have at least 5 lesbian friends and take a course before writing a lesbian character. Now, I don't know this author's sexuality, and I won't speculate. I couldn't find anything anywhere. But this writing is harmful. This trope is harmful. I can't find anywhere to buy this book right now, and her website is gone. But she still wrote this with her whole chest. These books don't seem to be easily available, which I personally think is a good thing overall. Now that I've said my little rant, back to the book. Gwen asks about Rachel's girlfriend of 3 years, Annie. Rachel doesn't want to talk about Annie, which is immediately suspicious combined with the creepy thing she just said about Thea. Rachel and Gwen are dancing with everyone else at this Halloween thing, you know. 2 guys are talking about how hot Rachel is and how she's gonna go home with one of them. Gross. Gwen then decides outing her sister to these guys in 2013, mind you, is a safe and totally okay thing to do. Hey, big guy, Gwen improvised. I hate to break it to you, But that witch is totally gay. She's not going home with either of you. Gwen searched her brain for a meathead distraction. However, I happen to know that the naughty nurse over there is straight and single. When the guys pivot to her friend at her suggestion, this is supposed to make us feel like Gwen saved Rachel from these drunk frat bros. This is not how this would work even now. Men view lesbians as hot, and they believe that lesbianism is an act to attract men half of the time. I literally had a guy follow me home in college, probably in 2013, honestly, and I told him that I was a lesbian, and it made it worse. Telling these men that her sister is a lesbian is dangerous because it could open her up to violence from these drunk men, including something called corrective rhymes with grape. We know what that is, right? Okay. Look that up. I don't feel like explaining it. Also, someone outing anyone under any circumstance is just wrong. I can't believe I have to say that, but I've seen like an alarming amount of books lately where they think that it's totally fine. Rachel then gets up on the buffet like this is Coyote Ugly. Gwen goes to hide in the bathroom and remembers a Halloween party she wanted to have when she invited other kids to go. But by the time she got home, their parents had decided that Halloween was satanic. The other kids did not want to hang out with her anymore after their parents went around telling the friends that Jesus died for their sins, and they didn't give them any candy. Can't really blame the kids, honestly. Ew. This is where Gwen pinpoints the turning point in her relationship with her parents and with other people. She knows she has a difficult time completely trusting people. This is where I would make fun of her because, again, I hate her. But I do understand that the Halloween party is a symptom of the whole. And I find nothing wrong with this. Gwen then helps a drunk Rachel back to Rachel's house because Rachel doesn't want to go to stay at Gwen's because she's a baker and she has to work early. This is something else that made me raise an eyebrow about this book, that both sisters are small business owners. I'm not saying it never happens, but it's a little weird. And some of the plot, I feel the author just wanted to get rid of the real life consequences of the actions that they take. When you're the business owner, you can just fuck off and no one can do anything about it, right? Sure, I mean, compared to a 9 to 5, for sure, but Chapter 2. Chapter 2 begins with Rachel lamenting the state of her relationship. She and Annie were so in love and things started to cool off after the first few months of their relationship. You know, the honeymoon period, duh. They still went on trips and bought the loft together and was still going okay. But now they barely speak. Annie is spending a lot of time with new people that Rachel hasn't ever met. Now, I recently read a good book called Guava Flavored Lies by J.J. Arias, where both main characters are Cuban bakers. In this book, it showed how if you're not with someone who is also a baker or like in the baking industry, the odd hours with really early mornings and going to bed fairly early can wear on relationships. But I felt there was very little mention of Rachel's career affecting her relationship with Annie, even though it's a no-brainer, as Rachel has a baker's schedule, but Annie is in a band, and the band primarily performs late at night. This is obviously going to make the social calendars and regular schedules difficult to sync up, let alone just spending quality time together. I felt that Guava Flavored Lies did a really good job of this. If you're interested in that, I suggest you hit that one up. The cover's ugly, but it's great. They're not even sleeping in the same room, and Rachel is worried that her alarm might start an argument between her and Annie. Rachel decides to take Annie's phone and read through the text messages to see that Annie is flirting with some other woman. Because Rachel and Gwen are incredibly codependent, Rachel rushes over to Gwen's office. It doesn't really make any sense because bakers typically get up before 4 a.m. I looked it up. That's about the average, right? I don't know many people who are at regular 9 to 5 jobs who are just there in their office at 4 a.m. Again, I don't feel like the jobs were thought out super thoroughly.
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Gwen asks, "What do you want?" Rachel tells her that Annie is cheating on her. Gwen gets weirdly hung up on the fact that Rachel looked through Annie's phone. Like, it's not great, but one of these things is much worse than the other. My upper lip is sweating, I swear to God, guys. Rachel plans to go to Annie's concert on Friday and beat up TK, which are the initials of whom Annie's cheating with. This is asinine. She doesn't know that this girl even knows Annie is in a relationship. The main focus of Anger and Hurt should be towards Annie. But these characters are so annoying that I'm almost on Annie's side. Anyway, Rachel convinces Gwen to come with her to the concert. Gwen doesn't want to go, though. Surprise, surprise. Chapter 3. Gwen's drinking after work and having takeout, but I think we're supposed to feel sorry for her. The day was easily on the top 10 suckiest days list. Gwen poured a third glass of wine after dinner, but then who needs a reason, she thought as she finished the bottle. Night after night of eating takeout in her apartment was growing old. Eating out alone was out of the question, even if she was modern and independent. Yeah, so independent you call your sister about everything, as we'll come to find out. She leaned back into her sofa, reached over to move a throw pillow to make room for the remaining pad thai, and sighed. The same sigh she sighed every day. Is this really my life? To whom much is given, much is expected. Shirley's voice screeched through Gwen's head. She had heard her mother say this 1,000 times. When she was little, Gwen had wanted to believe it, but now the words just mocked her mediocre, meaningless life. There wasn't even a hot guy in the picture to look forward to at the end of a long day. Hell, who needed hot? At this point, Gwen was willing to settle for moderately attractive with a functional libido. She just couldn't bring herself to make the effort. Relationships were always such a disappointment. The failure so humiliating. Girl, you can afford to eat out every single day. Insert lesbian joke here. I'm just kidding. But like, girl, you can eat out every single day and you're complaining about how bad your life is. Girl, you have money. I don't want to hear it. Her phone starts ringing and she's like, ew, I haven't spoken to my mother in 3 weeks and I don't want to. Fair enough. No contact is the best for real. Her mom leaves a message and wants her to go to singles night at the church or something. Their dad is the pastor at the church. Gwen then gets horny remembering a Christian boy I'm assuming when they were in high school, that she made out with, but then he tried to put his hand in her pants. Which, if you're not communicating, is SA. Let's keep it 100. It's not appropriate. But instead, she blames her mom. Because why wouldn't she? Gwen then randomly calls Rachel and asks her to save all of the voicemails that her mom leaves them. She's like, I want to save all of mom's crazy advice and write a book. Rachel brings her back down to earth by asking who would want to read a book about their mom. Honestly, mood. This also never goes anywhere. Rachel tells Gwen that their parents are moving again and that they want their help moving this weekend. This is clearly a repeating pattern. Chapter 4. Gwen is pissed about her parents moving again. Gwen talks about how the constant moving made her feel like an eternal outsider. This I found relatable. I only moved school districts once, but it was one of the worst things of my life. I think people don't understand how devastating stealing your child's whole life from them can be, including like their friends and their family. But Gwen is awful, so I don't feel that bad. Gwen heads to work. We get some exposition dump about Flora and Thea, the girls who work for her. They're largely unimportant, so I won't bore you. They also have no personalities that are discernible from any of the other characters, so Gwen talks to her employees about her parents moving and about a big inheritance they got from her grandmother, which apparently has sent them off the deep end. Her coworkers tease her about how she looks nothing like her family. She then remembers another Christian boy she fumbled around with in his car. He teased her about being a typical preacher's kid, or TPK, and she gets really pissed about it. Then the cops show up, but they don't get in trouble because they get fake names. Fascinating. Rachel is calling Gwen at work again. Do either of these people ever actually work? Rachel wants to go out to lunch, but Gwen reminds her that she has to see that boy that she was fumbling around when the police showed up with. She has to go to his house to organize or something. Hey Rach, what's up? Can you meet me for lunch? Rachel didn't sound stable. Sure, but I got the Linder thing at 2, so we gotta keep it short. Oh my god, are you seriously going to go to Dig Deep Dean's and look him in the eyes? Rach, it's been like 15 years. He probably doesn't even remember. I'm sure he's grabbed plenty of more impressive boobs since then. Yeah, you were kind of a carpenter's dream, flat as a board, Rachel squealed and couldn't even finish the jibe. Okay, lunch is off, you sadist, Gwen retorted. They go out to lunch anyway. Woo. Rachel wants to vent about Annie, so they meet up at Grandma's Saloon and Grill. Gwen is rude to the cab driver. Gwen was so busy amusing herself, she didn't notice that the taxi had stopped. Miss, you said grandma's, right? Did you mean your grandma's? The taxi driver chuckled at his clever quip. I meant the restaurant. You must be very proud to have found it all by yourself, Gwen replied curtly as she handed him the fare plus a tip, even when she was slicing away with her rapier wit. She just couldn't withhold a tip. That was barbaric. I don't think this counts as rapier wit. I think you're just being rude. Rachel is apparently dabbling in a new spiritual practice that is from India, because of course the unbearable sisters would culturally appropriate without feeling bad about it. After a long draw on the Diet Pepsi, Gwen smiled lovingly at Rachel. Okay, duly noted. So what's up with Annie? It's over, it's awful. We don't even speak, moaned Rachel. It's just a rough patch. You guys have made it through worse, Gwen coddled, noting that Rachel's center was already drifting. Not really, countered Rachel. Even during the really scary bit last year, we were still sleeping in the same bed. She still came into the bakery to kiss me goodbye. She would run me a hot tub at night and wash my hair, and we would talk about our day. Yeah, we had some screaming matches and I threw some shit, but we were still connected. Now it's just empty. A tear leaked out of Rachel's left eye and trickled across her lightly freckled cheek. Now we're just repeating stuff that we mostly already knew about with her and Annie, I guess, except for the screaming matches and the throwing stuff. Sounds super healthy, right? Gwen helps her decide whether or not Rachel should use the same realtor to sell the loft. Because, it's over. Whatevs. Lunch is done, and Gwen thinks about an ex-boyfriend named Bruce. Once Gwen left the restaurant and got into the taxi, she couldn't help but let her mind slip to thoughts of Bruce. They had lived together for 2 years. When she was in her mid-20s, finally, Bruce had popped the question. Of course, Gwen had said yes. Bruce was a successful stockbroker, and her parents were furious that she was living in sin. They wouldn't even set foot in Bruce's apartment. They even forbid Rachel to visit Gwen, but no one could keep a leash on Rachel. Gwen knew the wedding would fix everything. That was Hutchinson 101. Cover your tracks as quickly as possible and never speak of the sin again. If you don't talk about it, it never happened. So the wedding would take place with Pastor Hutchinson presiding. Naturally, no one would ever mention the 2 years that Gwen and Bruce had spent living together in the devil's service. Bruce's bachelor party got totally out of hand, and he still had a hangover the morning of the wedding. In fact, he threw up in the bushes just outside the church. Gwen was furious, but ever the perfect daughter. She informed Bruce that the only reason the wedding was going forward was because the invitations had been sent, and out-of-town guests had spent money to fly to the event. When Shirley wore a black dress to the wedding, Gwen pretended it was more amusing than anything else, but the not-so-subtle insult still stung. Time warped to 2 years later, when Gwen came home early and found Bruce in bed with his best friend, Kevin. Gwen filed for divorce. Of course, Bruce has to be gay. How could he not want such a catch as Gwendolyn? Obviously gay. This entire book, whenever the mom talks, they spell out a Midwest accent. I tried to film this the other day, but I learned that my DSLR camera is old. And I tried to do the accent and I was terrible. It turns to Irish. I can't even explain it, but I'm going to try it anyway. I don't know what you're going to do, Gwendolyn. I've always had a man to take... See, it turns Irish to take care of me. You're not getting any younger, You may not get another chance. See, I can't do Midwest. I'm sorry. I'm from New England. I'm trying my best here. You want me to do a British accent, I'm great. And there's an opportunity later in this video to be doing that. Also, can we just point out that they're all Midwestern? All of them. All of them were Midwestern. I don't understand why we're only singling out her mom. She then thinks about Jasper, who left 3 years ago to avoid commitment. I wish I were Jasper or even Bruce, because they don't have to be here for this. She goes back to work. Chapter 5. Gwen goes to her ex's place to do some kind of consultation for organizing. She's immediately misogynistic about his wife. Diane Linder answered the door. Her hair was so bleached that it looked otherworldly, and her eye tuck was a little too obvious. The garish pink and black pantsuit was an homage to a forgotten fashion era. Like, I mean, maybe it's not misogynistic, but she's so judgmental about every single woman that she sees or thinks about that, like, I don't believe that she's not being misogynistic, you know? I just don't. And like, maybe, just maybe, you don't have a social life, because no woman would want to put up with your constant misogyny. Just a thought. Dean comes down and is friendly. He then hits on her in front of his wife because apparently Gwen is irresistible. He then gets close to her. Gwen turned to say goodbye at the door and found Dean standing uncomfortably close. "Gwenny, the one that got away, eh, kid?" Dean grinned. "We'll see you next Wednesday," Gwen said in a slightly threatening but matter-of-fact tone. She used the plural as a defense. We, not just weak little Gwenny. We will be here, Gwen and her army. She turned quickly and walked briskly to the Jeep, careful not to wiggle her ass. As soon as she was out of sight, she grabbed her cell phone. So what does she do about this? She immediately calls her sister, of course. They confirm helping their parents move on the weekend again. Gwen then calls Randy, who Rachel suggested she call so he can be in charge of organizing Dean's place instead of her. "Randy, it's Gwen Hutch. Gwenny, my fabulous Gwenny, did you get the Clark and Mayfield tote I sent you?" gushed Randy. "Yes, thank you so much. It's perfect." "Of course it is, sweetie. It's from me." Randy's voice was petulant and teasing. "Randy, I need a favor. I will not pretend to be your boyfriend just to keep Reverend Eddie and Shirley at bay. No, it's worse. I need you to run a job at an ex-boyfriend's house in East End. Pretty please." Gwen hated to beg, but Randy loved it, so she acquiesced. "Oh, sweetie, I wish I could. You have such good taste in men." Kidding. Although Bruce was kind of my type. Too busy, up to my ass in acrobats, as they say. "You wish," laughed Gwen. "I don't think anyone actually says that, Randy." "I do, and I'm the biggest someone you'll ever know, Gwendolyn Hutchinson," pouted Randy. "How do you know he's pouting? He's not in front of you. Whatever." "Sadly, you're probably right, Randy," Gwen sighed. "Thanks anyway, Your Majesty. Anytime, surf." That's gonna be how I start referring to my straight friends who do stupid things, as a surf. Also, if you thought we were gonna get out of this without several stereotypical gay men, you were wrong. Chapter 6. We finally get another Rachel chapter. No one's playing favorites, right? We start with Rachel trying to pick an outfit to confront Annie's side piece. Gwen is still delusional about this being about collecting information. She forces Rachel to wear jeans. Oh no, the horror. "Gwenny," Rachel instantly threw on her pretty pouty face, "I want that TK B word. I'm trying to skirt around you two, but I don't really know the rules because I don't post me talking that much. We'll find out with this video, I guess. I want that B word to see what she's messing with." "Rach, put on the jeans or I'm off the mission." Gwen crossed her arms and waited. Rachel could pout, but Gwen had patience. 10 seconds later. "Fine, I'll wear the effing jeans." Rachel dressed angrily. "They're happy, ecstatic." We're only on chapter 6, guys. We then get like 2 paragraphs of Annie's POV for sound check. Rachel's own chapters can't even just be about Rachel. Like, it didn't add anything to the story at all. They paid the doorman a bribe to be let in. It's a gig at a bar. How many people can be there? Why would there even be tickets? I mean, I've been to a couple concerts where there are tickets, but these sound like a local band, you know? Gwen goes to get them drinks, and then this happens. Gwen threaded her way to the bar, her ears ringing from the blaring music. No one grabbed her ass, and she wasn't sure if she should be offended. Yeah, sexual assault. So funny. That's not even the part we're going to be talking about either. The guys were mostly gay, so that explained half of the situation, but no single lesbians wanted. Gwen mentally flicked herself on the back of the head. Get it together, Hutchinson. You're not gay, remember? Yeah, no straight person has to remind themselves that they're straight. That is not how it works. They see Annie playing towards the girl, you know, like pointed or whatever, like Julian Baker does towards people sometimes. And they kiss on stage. Rachel nearly falls to the ground and Gwen catches her. Gwen begs Rachel not to punch anyone and says Annie won't be impressed by it. Rachel tells Gwen to bring her home. They just plow through people after a bit, and people are pissed about it. No surprise. Maybe don't be a dick at a concert. Someone is like, hey, is that you, Rachel? Which, you know, all the lesbians know each other. And then this happens. Back off. Her name is Fiona, and she's pretty effing sick. So unless you want puke all over your docs, move. Gwen had seen a... I'm allowed to say it. You guys aren't. I don't think YouTube is going to let me say it, though. So here it is. Nice, beautiful lesbian slur for you. Or two in action, and she gave it her best shot. Tall and skinny backed up, and Gwen and Rachel popped out of the crowd like a waffle from a toaster. We seem to be in Gwen's POV when she thinks this delightful slur. Unfriendly reminder again that we can say it. You can't if you're not a lesbian. Okay, thank you. I just said that, but I'm saying it again just in case. When they're in the car, Rachel starts to have a meltdown while they're, like, getting out. Fair enough. What did I do? The tears Rachel had been holding back came pouring forth. You didn't do anything, sweetie. Relationships are fucked up and people can't face the truth, so they sabotage things the only way they know how. They do something unforgivable and then it's over. Gwen pulled Rachel from the car. Do you want me to sleep over? I just thought we could fix. Rachel's voice disappeared into a sob. Rachel, you knew it was over. You were planning to sell the loft and move, remember? Gwen tried to be kind as they walked up to Rachel's room. But it was mutual. Now I know she's got someone else and I'm going to be alone. It's not fair. I wanted her to suffer without me. I wanted her to regret leaving me, not this. Rachel flung herself down on the bed and cried. You aren't going to be alone forever. And don't worry, the first time Blue Bangs drops some acid because she totally looks like the type Rach, Annie will be wishing she could come back to you. Gwen made most of it up, but she was desperate to stop Rachel's tears. So, number one, I don't think that's why people cheat. I looked up that, you know, there are all sorts of reasons. I've never cheated on anyone, so, you know. But tons of people who cheat on their partners and just don't expect to keep dating them. They expect it to be a secret. Like, they never plan to tell their partners. Also, way to go, Gwen, making it about you. Well, your sister is experiencing some extreme heartbreak because of cheating. Yay! Like, we get that her making you cry is making you uncomfortable, but maybe you should have some more empathy for your sister. Chapter 7. Gwen shows up late for moving, probably as a passive-aggressive fuck you to her parents. Rachel is already helping them. Rachel is just teasing her, and then Gwen uses another slur out loud, but like out loud this time. Here's a screenshot. And before everyone's like, oh, we were all saying that in 2013, I wasn't. Lots of people I know weren't using slurs on the regular. Shut up. You're just a bad person. Everyone else is working on moving, but Gwen decides to open some of the moving boxes and take a trip down memory lane. Again, maybe no one likes you because you're obnoxious. Also, you don't want to be around your parents. Do you know how you can make this go faster? Actually helping them pack. She finds some old photos. Some are photos of paintings with the written explanation that the artist is Daniel Gregory and that they were taken at his apartment. There's a photo of her mom posing next to a painting. Her mother was clearly the model for the painting. Gwen is shook by this. Gwen feels the photos are too sexy. She looks at the dates on the photos. Gwen then gets weird because she thinks the photos are proof that her mother had an affair and that her dad isn't her dad. She helps them pack stuff up and pockets the negatives of the photos. She then asks what kind of takeout Rachel wants, but is rude about it. Rachel goes to some dumpsters and throws out some of their parents' hoarded stuff, like National Geographics or whatever. It's apparently a big accomplishment. I don't get it. Riveting. Well, my news seems blasé now, added Gwen smugly. Oh yeah, what crawled up your butt and died? You were halfway to your home planet this afternoon. I mean, you didn't even see the kick me sign I taped up to Dad's back. Rachel was giggling like a 10-year-old. Rachel, you better sit down, seriously, Gwen said in her best school guidance counselor voice. Did he call? Rachel asked, with a mix of fear and worse fear. What, he? Oh, God, no. Please, Rach, that ship has sailed. If Jasper ever calls me, I will politely thank him for thinking of me and tell him I've moved on. End of story. I'm not going to collapse. I'm not that girl anymore. Okay, so what's with this seriously crap? Gwen produced the packet of pictures from her purse and handed them to Rachel. Nice paintings. Oh, look, Mom looks so young. She really looks a bit like you, Gwenny. No offense. Is this the artist? Rachel pointed to the handsome stranger in the photo. His name is Daniel Gregory, and I actually think he may be more than that, Rach. Oh, was Mom dating this guy or something? Gwen hesitated for a moment, wondering if she should reconsider bringing Rachel into the inner circle. Then Rachel noticed the border. I guess she better not have been. This is 2 years after she married Dad. Rachel wanted to laugh but caught sight of Gwen's pained expression. No frickin' way, screamed Rachel. Way, murmured Gwen. Rachel counted on her fingers and looked up at Gwen with all the hope she could find in her heart. You don't think he's your... Do you? Rachel squeaked. I'm starting to wonder, replied Gwen softly. These people are so annoying. Like, this is bombshell news, potentially, and they're still being annoying. They leave to go to some parade. It's very boring and adds pretty much nothing. They see Annie and her new fling in the crowd. Look, it's Annie. Rachel shook her mittened hand at the specter. Someone's pulling her through the crowd. Rachel was frantic. Is it Blue Bangs? I see Annie, but I can't see who is pulling her. Gwen craned her neck fruitlessly. Maybe it's her cousin? Are you fucking kidding me, Gwen? Rachel was furious. Why would she even come here? She knows this is our tradition. Rach, it's a parade. Anyone can come. Maybe. Let's go. This is BS. Fully spelled out. Yeah, my cheeks are numb anyway, complained Gwen. Rachel spun around and added, let's act like we're having a blast in case she saw me. Gwen didn't dare argue. It's so high school. These are grown adults, mind you. I understand that cheating sucks and sometimes you might slip back into some high school stuff, but they're always acting like this is high school. Chapter 8. Gwen gives Flora more responsibilities and a raise so she doesn't have to deal with her ex-dean. It's that transparent. Gwen admits it immediately when only slightly pressed by Flora. Whenever the perfect friend and socialite brings up Flora's dead sister to make a point. We then get a flashback about Flora's dead sister and how she died, because why have a consistent POV? Gwen says she wasn't being flippant about Flora's death, but like, why would you even bring it up? Why? The chapter ends with Gwen excited because now that she has more time without that account to worry about, she wants to hunt down Daniel Gregory, the artist she thinks is her real dad. Chapter 9. We get a new POV because why the hell not? What is this? As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner? Goth joke. It's Mr. Gregory, who has an art show coming up. He's being a dick to his assistant Todd and refuses to be a prisoner in this gallery. I would not want to be Todd for all the money in the world. Todd is apparently on edge, and Daniel is serene. This is probably because Daniel doesn't deal with the actual business end of the art he makes. Todd is stressed because he's the one ensuring they get money. We also have to hear about how Daniel is hot from doing lots of exercise. Daniel makes Todd select the art for the show and is going to fuck off to his cabin until Monday. Todd tries to remind him of his work duties and that this art show is very important, but Daniel is a dick and tells Todd to do it anyway. He said he'll give Todd tickets to Guthrie, but he should just do his own job. Do your own job. He drives towards his cabin. He stops for lunch. He fat shames the waitress in his head. Daniel nodded politely, and he followed the strange shape to his table. Why did women think that bulky sweaters disguised their girth? It seemed to him that sweaters just clung to the oddities and, if anything, emphasized them. His artistic eye felt compelled to capture the odd spectacle on imaginary canvas, a study in geometric asymmetry, he mentally named the tableau. Oil on canvas, he added as he slid into the booth. Not one of these people is likable. I wish I was Annie so I could fuck off and basically be out of this story. Chapter 10. Rachel is going to meet the realtor, and Annie was pretty detached about selling the loft. They're splitting things equally, except for Annie's big down payment. As far as queer breakups go, this one isn't going so bad. Yet. The realtor says they'll get a nice proceed, but is nosy, and Rachel is going to have to tell her she's breaking up with Annie when Annie shows up. Annie, get out of this story while you can. That blue-haired girl sounds nice, please. Oh, you and Miss Nelson will not be buying a new place? Nancy was hoping this was true. While she liked Rachel and thought of herself as progressive, Nancy had a problem with the whole lesbian thing. Not that there was anything wrong with it. Annie sauntered in and plopped down in an overstuffed chair on the other side of the glass coffee table. Hi, Annie, offered Nancy. Yeah, mumbled Annie. I was just explaining everything. Rachel made every effort to keep things under control. Oh, yeah? Does it need explaining? Annie's voice was dripped with sarcasm. Nancy felt very uncomfortable and even considered dropping the list, but in the end, her high moral character and the huge commission convinced her to stay. Why are we getting Nancy's POV? We never hear about Nancy like ever again. What is this? There are just a few papers to sign. Nancy opened her briefcase and extracted several forms with little flags stuck on at just the right spots for signatures. Do you want something to drink, Nancy? Rachel asked. Well, Miss Hostess, sniped Annie. Look, Annie, I'm just trying to be polite. Can we get through this? Can you try to be civil? Begged Rachel. Civil? You're fucking kicking me out of the house. That seems kind of fucking uncivil. You're always at work. I take care of everything, Andy was winding up. See, I told you the work thing is a problem, but we only touch on it briefly. Annie, please, we've been through all this. We made a fair deal. You'll be compensated. Rachel regretted it as soon as she said it. Nancy was frozen like a deer in headlights. Her hand was halfway between putting the papers on the table and shoving them back into her case and running. The room was swirling with tension. Compensated. Oh, that's rich. Like a high-priced whore? Annie spat vehemently. Annie, I didn't mean it that way. For Christ's sake, can we just sign the papers and move on? Pleaded Rachel. Yeah, let's just move on. Annie put a bit more acid into her response than she actually felt. But Rachel deserved it. She was acting so cold and bitchy, like their 3-year relationship meant nothing. See, we get to be in Annie's POV a little bit too. So the breakup isn't going so hot, probably because cheaters always want the other person to fight for the relationship. They break out laughing when the realtor leaves, and they kind of make up. Rachel is like, can we be friends through this? And Annie is like, I don't know, but we can try. Famous last words from any lesbian. Chapter 11. We're back to Daniel, and he's on the phone with Todd, who is still trying to get his input. He is still bribing Todd with season tickets like a douche. He's at the cabin. We get a long-winded description of it, but who cares? Not me. He decides to call the organizer because the cabin is a bit in disarray. Could this be any more convenient to the plot? I think not. He wants it done this weekend because he's going back to the city after. We switch POVs to Flora's mid-chapter because what is a coherent POV? Flora talks to Gwen about being swamped while he's on hold. We're now in Gwen's POV because this author hates me personally. Gwen remembers some guy named Stephen who was Jewish, and he stopped dating her because of her parents. Fair enough, he dodged a bullet. But yay, anti-Semitism. We have to hit all the bigotry in this book, huh? They met him with Gwen at a restaurant. Her mother slut shames her. Suddenly Shirley stopped, turned and looked at Gwen's expensive new dress. Do you know what people think when they see a girl like you dressed like that with a man like him? Shirley nearly spat with disgust. What? Whore. Shirley spun on a dime and continued to the table. Also, her mom said a very lovely anti-Semitic shit. If I didn't put anti-Semitism in the trigger warnings, I'm sorry. Here it is now. I'm sorry. I'll try to put it also in the little thing. But I think I covered it, but maybe I'm crazy. The boy belongs to a cult, Gwendolyn, which is rich because Judaism was there first. half of the freaking Bible is stolen from Judaism. And then her dad, also so wonderful, says those are the people responsible for putting Christ on the cross. The anti-Semitism. Isn't it so wonderful? Also, Jesus was Jewish and Palestinian. So, anyway, let's keep going. Her mother refuses to be supportive and leaves. She has sex with Stephen in the car after because she's mad. Gwen gets pregnant from this, but they are in college. Gwen says she can't have a child out of wedlock. He points out she sounds like her mother, which is kind of fair. Gwen decides to get an abortion. Good for her. Her body, her choice. She doesn't want to ruin her own future. Again, fair enough. She and Steven argue about this, but honestly, it's her body still, so fuck him. Also, this is not consistent with Judaism. I don't think the author did any research. He up and moves without telling Gwen, and it turns out she wasn't pregnant anyway. It's unclear if this was just her period or an early miscarriage, but either way, no more baby. She then plays a fucked up fantasy in her mind where she got seriously injured in a car crash. Somehow turns out she was switched at birth. Look, we've all been there, but this is a little obnoxious. Chapter 12. Rachel and Annie are loading the last of Annie's stuff into the moving van. They smile and hug because of course they do. Lesbian. Take care of yourself, Annie. Yeah, you too. I still get free scones at the bakery, right? Annie smiled, that big, inviting grin that reminded Rachel of happier times. Hey, if I gave free scones to all my former lovers, Rachel laughed bravely. Oh, what the heck, sure, scones, and maybe an occasional big cookie. Wow, a big cookie, now you're just sticking it to me. Annie smiled and gave Rachel a friendly punch on the shoulder before she turned to get in the van. Bye. See you around. Gwen calls Rachel for dinner. Gwen wants to go to Lake Superior and get drunk and crazy. It's boring. Gwen is checking out some guys wherever they are because it kills her inside to be there for her sister while her sister is going through a breakup. They're grinding on people. Rachel is grinding on a guy, I think. I don't get it. Ugh. Gwen has some creep trying to dance with her, so Rachel saves her. So exciting. Gwen asks Rachel if she saw a guy she calls the Lion King, who is an older guy with a ton of hair. This is Daniel from the other POV. They continue to drink until they are wasted. Gwen keeps talking about how Daniel is like a Greek god. Rachel writes down Gwen's number and gives it to Daniel for her. We then move to Daniel's POV mid-chapter. He thinks Gwen is hot, but a bit too young for him. He goes home and leaves Todd a message because apparently Todd doesn't get any days off and tells him to clear his schedule after the art show because he wants to come back to the cabin for 2 weeks. Woo. Chapter 13. Gwen is hungover. Gwen is thinking about how it's weird now that the roles are reversed since Rachel's taking care of her. She remembers how she helped Rachel when she was struggling with her sexuality. This is supposed to make me like Gwen, but it doesn't. It just doesn't. There are no work consequences for Rachel because she has William take over the bakery for now. Rachel tells Gwen she gave Daniel her number. Gwen is annoying about it. Gwen goes into the office on Monday. Flora tells her she closed a big account. She tells Gwen that Daniel Gregory is the big account, and Gwen gets sick and goes to the bathroom. That's it. That's the chapter. Chapter 14. Back with Daniel again. Todd is up his ass again to be on time for the art show. This guy is a major flake, so fair enough. Todd did an amazing job. If only Todd could do the art, he would never have to see this loser again. Todd finds out Daniel was drinking over the weekend and becomes alarmed. Daniel had an out-of-control drinking binge when his father died several years ago. We can now all easily see that Daniel isn't Gwen's potential father, but her potential brother that she thought was hot. Daniel also reveals that he got Gwen's number, which Todd is surprised about. Daniel has dated since his first wife died violently, and he had more binge drinking. He was dating someone named Natalie, but she jumped ship after his dad died and he started binge drinking again. I wish I was Natalie right now. Todd basically saved Daniel from himself and ran the gallery while he got Daniel help. That's part of the reason Todd is so up his ass. Todd got Daniel to publish a book about his story, which became a bestseller, I'm sure because Todd probably ghost wrote it. Daniel returned to painting and rebuilt his life after, but he hadn't tried dating since Natalie. Chapter 15. Gwen immediately calls Rachel after puking because Rachel is all she has. So naturally, Gwen goes to the bakery to harass her sister. Rachel was pacing behind the counter like a 1940s father-to-be, waiting outside a delivery room. Gwenny, what the hell? Can we go upstairs? Yeah, of course, guys, I'm out. Hold down the fort. Two semi-bewildered heads nodded robotically. Gwen let the door shut before she lost it. Oh my god, Rach, I'm a freaking living soap opera. Gwenny, you got drunk, you danced like a stripper, and you gave your number to a complete stranger. Sounds like a good time to me. Rachel tried to sound nonchalant, but she was more than a little concerned about Gwen's meltdown. You gave it. You gave my number to that man. Is that what's bothering you? I'm sorry, Gwenny. I was just having some fun. No, it's not about the stupid bar. It's so much worse. Gwen collapsed onto the couch, huge tears sluicing down her pale cheeks. Sluicing. I think it's sluicing. I don't like that word. Gwen reveals the man is Daniel Gregory. Rachel tells Gwen to give Daniel Gregory a rest. I agree. Rachel also thinks they're full-blooded sisters and that Gwen should knock it off. Knowing how the book ends, I'm inclined to agree with Rachel. Gwen also tells Rachel that Daniel is a client now. Gwen says she has to face him because what if he's her dad? Rachel decides to be supportive because she's much nicer than me. Gwen doesn't want her to come though. Gwen is going to have Flora set up a meeting and she's going to bring the photos. Flora says no problem. He wanted to meet the organizer anyway. Gwen is going back to the office now to pretend she has a real job. Chapter 16. Now we're in their parents' POV because why the hell not? They're going to a singles mixer for Jesus. Rachel is catering and her mom is planning on setting her up with a nice Christian boy. The dad thinks to himself, that's a waste of time because he can't remember the last time Rachel was interested in a guy. He is so close, he can almost taste it. For real. Her mom berates her about not dressing up or doing anything with her hair. Rachel reminds her mother that she's catering. The mom and some church lady are being passive aggressive to each other. What else is new? My wife's family is Catholic, and I much prefer how they gossip about and treat each other. Her grandma is a million times more entertaining than these people, and not bigoted. Wild. Her mom starts introducing her to Christian guys. It ends with, guess what? Yet another sister phone call. They don't say anything worth mentioning. Chapter 17. Chapter 17 starts with an art event at Daniel's gallery. This is my favorite chapter because there's an invitation just in the chapter which takes up room. So thanks for that. Predictably, Daniel takes credit for what Todd did because he's a dick. Daniel hates the people who come to his shows, even though that's the only way he makes hundreds of thousands of dollars. As someone who went to art school twice, this is really hypocritical. There's nothing wrong with critiquing how the fine arts industry works, but he's reaping the benefits and then judging the people who pay his bills. He reveals to some woman that this is going to be his last show. He lets some guy into the show or something. It's not important. He starts drinking and then asks for the car. He goes off and has sex with the woman he talked to about it being his last show. She ended up buying 3 paintings and he said he feels like a cheap whore. I think he's just a regular slut, but what do I know? He gets out of bed because he forgot about his meeting with Gwen, so he takes a quick shower. When will my torment end? Chapter 18. Once again, I am expected to care about these people picking outfits. I cannot take it anymore. Also, the random brand name drops are weird. No one is paying you to shout out the best middle-class brands of 2013 in your indie book. She picks a dumb outfit and heads to meet Daniel. Hello, you must be Miss Hutchinson. Daniel stepped to the side and waved his arm magnanimously to indicate, Mi casa e su casa. But the woman outside his door was as still as a statue. I'm sorry, are you not Miss Hutchinson? Daniel stared in confusion. Gwen knew she should say something. She knew she should walk into the house, but all she could do was stare in horror and try to breathe. Her eyes were sending the message to her brain. It's him! It's the Lion King! But her brain was refusing to accept the frantic transmission. Miss, are you okay? Daniel tried to sound concerned, but he was mostly annoyed. Who was this woman? Does she just walk around, knock on doors, and go catatonic? I mean, this chick looks too young to be a door-to-door sales, and the rest of the thought vaporized in Daniel's head. She was too young. She almost looked like a college student. Gwen was just about to regain her control of motor function when Daniel gave her a mental taser jolt. Hey, didn't I see you at the Yellow Submarine last Friday? Daniel dug up his friendly but nonchalant smile. When the girl didn't answer, his smile swirled into a worried frown, and he thought, oh shit, a stalker. Excuse me, miss, but I have an appointment and I'm letting all the heat out, so I really must say goodbye. Daniel was going to close the door. I'm appointment, was all Gwen managed to choke out before her stomach was taken over by jumping jacks. Her face turned pale, and her face turned a pale shade of green, and her hazel eyes widened with fear. Bathroom, she blurted. Daniel hesitated, but then after got better of it and opened the door wide and skipped to the chapter where the next part is important. Gwen was drowning and there was no one to save her. Even in her state of paralyzing fear, she knew that Mr. Gregory would overhear any phone call she tried to make. She had to pull herself together. I tried to pick up my dad and I did the sexy dance for him, she mouthed. Gwen was turning green around the edges, but she swallowed hard, pressed her wrist in the mystical acupressure spot, and tried to hold it together. At least she's mortified at the prospect of having tried to pick up her dad and dance sexy for him. Although there is an easier solution to this, which is doing a DNA test with you and your sister. That way you can know that you're 100% sisters and have the same parents, and you don't have to meet some older guy you hit on when you were wasted. She admits that her sister gave him her number, but why this is the thing to be worried about, I'm not sure. I guess that would be awkward if you didn't bring it up. And then we're like,
you are my dad. You're my dad. Wookie, wookie, wookie.
She shows him the photos, but she makes a whole bunch of assumptions before even asking any questions. She says she thinks he's her father and that she would like to do a DNA test. Daniel hugs her, which is weird for someone you've just met, but okay. He tells her he's Daniel Jr. and that he's only 42. He tells her it was his father's paintings and his father in the photo. She wiped her eyes with her free hand and for a moment processed this new piece of information. She had not tried to pick up her dad at a bar, thankfully. However, it was equally unnerving to think that she was hitting on her brother. Well, not quite as bad. I mean, this Daniel Gregory was obviously much younger than she had assumed. She surveyed him. He was definitely younger than she had thought. His hair was thick and lustrous. His skin was healthy and nearly smooth. His shoulders were broad and strong. Whoa, cowgirl, let's keep it above the waist. She smiled at her clever joke before gazing up into Daniel's eyes. He was smiling back at her. Being thankful you were not trying to pick up your dad, but your brother is super weird. It's still incest. And she still thinks sexual thoughts about him, despite her thinking it's her brother. The husky voice and the word sister brought Gwen back to the room. Shit, she was falling for her brother. Oh, this Greek tragedy just keeps getting better. Okay, Gwen, look, this guy is a handsome, caring stranger. It's perfectly normal for you to feel attracted. You only found out he might be your brother 2 minutes ago. You will have to develop a sibling relationship. The attraction will fade. Gwen finished her internal monologue and forced herself to smile. A bland, sisterly smile. What in the Penelope Douglas is this shit? He tells her that his dad passed away when she says she'll have to show Daniel Sr. the photos. I'm sorry, Gwen stuttered between sobs. I know I didn't know, but now never have the chance. The sobs grew in intensity. It must awful for you, she moaned. It was pretty awful, agreed Daniel, but at least I got to know him. I'm sorry you won't have that chance. Daniel put his finger under Gwen's chin and tipped her face upward. He would have loved you. Honestly, you would have been his dream daughter. As Daniel looked reassuringly into Gwen's despairing hazel eyes, he felt an unwelcome heat flicker in his groin. He tried to disengage and sit back casually, but he knew it felt stiff and awkward. Don't fall for your new baby sister, perv, Daniel told himself. These people are both freaks. The fact that they're both still attracted to each other when they think they're related is disgusting. Go to therapy and get far away from each other. Honestly, based on Gwen having to remind herself she was straight earlier, put Rachel in witness protection immediately. Daniel says he doesn't have any siblings that he knows about, but that his dad cheated on his mom a lot. He also talks about how he and his dad had like an enmeshed relationship where his dad shared way more about himself than he should to his son, not keeping secrets, you know. They call it enmeshment psychic incest, so I guess we shouldn't be surprised that he wants to fuck his sister. Gwen says she doesn't think he knew about her and that her mom probably just stopped taking his calls and started lying to her husband to cover it up. We are doing a lot of reaching in this story, but okay. Daniel agrees to do a DNA test. Gwen then decides she needs to resist calling Rachel after the results because now is apparently the time to have boundaries. Kind of convenient that it coincides with you two not being full sisters anymore. Chapter 19. Rachel is out at the club trying not to think about Annie cheating on her. Maybe we should go to therapy, get a massage, move to Provincetown. Instead, she's been having some one night stands, which isn't the worst coping, but still not great. A blonde woman hits on her and asks her to get out of here. Rachel asks how she even knows she's gay. The other woman says she's seen her in here before leaving with women that were beneath her. Gotta love the misogyny from every woman in this book. And also the stalking. The woman's name is Danica. She says she's also not available for a long-term thing and wants no strings attached. And they literally start having sex in the taxi. Like, I get exhibitionism is a thing, but it's rude to bring people into your kinks who did not consent, and the taxi driver did not consent. Also, we're in Danica's POV for this quote, yay. Danica was anxious to get things started. The taxi driver was going to get more than a tip on this fare. She licked her fingers and slid her hand under the waistband of Rachel's miniskirt past the thong and into heaven. Danica, I think we should wait. Oh shit, that feels good. Rachel's protestations were lost in her suppressed moans. Danica breathed into Rachel's neck. You are already so wet. I can't wait to. The cab swerved dangerously and jostled the busy couple. Danica was unperturbed. Rachel finished in the cab before they even got close to her apartment. Danica was just such a turn on. However, Danica's next sentence gave Rachel a moment of hesitation. Danica reveals to Rachel while they're making out that she has a husband who doesn't know that she's bisexual. She doesn't want a threesome like she suspects her husband would want, so she cheats on him instead. Nothing like casual biphobia is there. Rachel, who has just been cheated on, does not take much convincing, surprisingly, since the other party being cheated on is a man. I can't believe you're going to make me get on here and defend a man, but men don't deserve to be cheated on either. The morning after, she almost immediately calls Gwen, who has left her a voicemail, to tell Gwen about her new hookup, because we have to have as much enmeshment in this book as possible. Chapter 20. They're at the doctor's office, Daniel and Gwen. The doctor has some of Daniel Sr.'s paintings in his office. The doctor then gives out HIPAA-protected information about Daniel's mother. Just because she's dead doesn't mean you can go on blabbing about her to someone you don't know and someone who isn't even related to this woman either way. Anyway, on to the test. With all due respect, Daniel, I don't think you do understand. It sounds to me like you had a lot of encouragement from your dad. You had things in common, like the painting, and he was proud of you. To me, that's like a fairy tale. My parents are religious fanatics. They take every available opportunity to cut me down and indicate their profound disappointment. In fact, my mother is so practiced at dispatching backhanded compliments that it sometimes takes days before I realize how deeply she's insulted me. At least you have a mother, Gwen. Daniel's pain was visible. I'm sorry about your mother, Daniel, but I have to disagree with you. Having a hateful, judgmental, manipulating mother is not better than no mother at all. It has to be. Well, I can assure you it is not. Yeah, having no mother is better than having an abusive mother. Also, he wants to be in her life. He says like this quote about wanting to be in her life no matter what. Your two real interactions have been, I want to fuck you, and you're my dad, boogie woogie woogie. If this happened to me, I would never want to see this person ever again if we weren't related. Hell, even if we were related, no thank you. Daniel didn't ask follow-up questions before, like, who is your mother? Because why would he? But when Gwen says her name, he says his dad thought Shirley, the mom, was the one who got away. She asks if he knows if They got physical. Daniel said they didn't talk about the physical part of his dad's affairs. Thank God for that. Apparently, before some guy named Bill Graham got to Gwen's mother, she was an activist and esthetician, went to Earth, Wind, and Fire concerts, and did other weird stuff. And then she became a Christian nut job. You know, the radicalization, it's real. Also, can we talk about the hippie to Christian pipeline, to like radical right pipeline? It's weird. Daniel is then like, what if you're not my sister? They both want the test to be positive for their own reasons. Gwen does not want to be attached to her parents and throw it in their faces, while Daniel just wants not to be alone and to have some family. If the test is negative, I'll be bummed. I think you would be a great sister, and I would have loved to take you to visit Grandma Gregory. However, I decided that if you are not my sister, I will just have to be your best friend. Daniel grinned like a schoolboy. Best friend? Gwen shook her head disapprovingly. Yeah, best friend. I mean, fate brought us together. Gwen, whether we're related or not, there's a reason we have ended up in each other's lives. So if the test is negative and you puke all over Dr. Watkins and run off in hysterics, I'll hunt you down and I'll be there for you until you really do punch me in the face. Yeah, this guy is crazy and she needs to run for the hills, but she's also terrible. So they're made for each other. Sorry, Ginge. Ugh. He talks about feeling a connection to her, which again, they've met 3 times and the first time doesn't count because they didn't even talk. She won't even accept that the test might be negative. We're in a great place. The doctor comes out with the results, but I don't think DNA tests results happen that fast, especially not in 2013.
When it comes to 2-year-old AJ Collins, you are not.
If you guess they're not related and now they can maybe bone, I don't have anything to give you. I could award you a fruit leather. That's the best I can do. She runs away and Daniel talks to the doctor, who tells him to give her time to process this, which is fair. There is an incoherent flashback from Daniel's dead dad's POV. He and Shirley are talking with a hippie accent, calling each other baby and stuff. It's then supposed to be Daniel's daydream, but I don't get why we would do it like this. It was written really confusingly. Daniel ends this chapter by deciding he has to find Gwen. Chapter 21. Gwen cried a bunch. Anyone surprised? Show of hands. She decides to escape before Daniel can find her. This is where Gwen goes off the deep end. She throws her cell phone in the trash and gets on a plane. She flies to fucking New Zealand from Minnesota with a couple of layovers and stuff because drama. That's how the chapter ends. Chapter 22. Daniel is on his quest to find Gwen. His brilliant idea is to call her work. Flora tells him that Gwen has taken an extended leave. That is another point to me, thinking the jobs are just convenient to the plot. Flora asks if he has her cell number, and he says yes, but she's not answering. He says it's a matter of life and death, but it is, in fact, not. Flora looks at Gwen's bank account like she has that information and tells him that she took a plane and which airline it was through. Daniel is like, I need to put the cabin on hold until I find Gwen. Flora is confused by this. Yeah, samesies. Daniel has now decided to bother Todd and make him do his dirty work. Todd is apparently a secret agent and finds out where Gwen flew away to. It's all very convenient and no one has to struggle to find any information. Todd is sympathetic when the whole story is told to him because Todd is a saint. Chapter 23. Gwen has no plan on where she's going or what she's going to do. Gwen remembers things about her childhood, but they're not that important. We get the message. It's the same shit. Also, most of it is about her boobs refusing to come in. Which is something I really wanted to know about. The guy taking her passport has a hard time pronouncing her name, but they speak English in New Zealand, so this is stupid. Like, yes, Maori is one of the languages there, but New Zealand is primarily an English-speaking country. Don't worry, though. Gwen is here to be racist and sound like a colonizer. Gwen grabbed a seat in the International Lounge near an Indian family. The father was holding a small boy in his lap, and the boy's deep brown eyes were transfixed by Gwen's skin. The mother and grandmother were flowing, colorful saris, and little matching slippers. Gwen thought they looked very exotic. As she looked around at all the brown and black faces in the lounge, she noticed that she was, in fact, the rare animal at the zoo. Today we're collecting bigotry like Pokemon. Gotta catch 'em all. Gwen shouts at herself because she threw her phone away, and a British guy talks to her because he thought she was yelling at him. He suggests she sleep around, and the flirting is as terrible as it is boring. Also, remember when this book was supposed to be LGBT? Pepperidge Farm remembers, because it's been 90% about Gwen. They decide to stay at a hotel together and hook up. His name is Henry, and they make out at the end of the chapter. Chapter 24. We're about halfway. How are we feeling? Do you like the show? Rachel has been trying to call Gwen, but Gwen cannot answer because she threw out her phone. She doesn't check the phone ringing when she picks up Rachel, thinking it's Gwen, but it's Flora. Flora tells Rachel that Gwen is missing, but Rachel thinks it sounds like Gwen took a vacation. Flora tells her that Gwen is in New Zealand. Rachel asks for both Daniel's and Todd's numbers. She calls Daniel and they go over what we already know, the DNA tests, etc. We just have to repeat things that we already know, right? So you can see why I'm so worried, Daniel finished. Oh, sure. Rachel could see why she should be worried about Gwen, but she really didn't understand why this total stranger who didn't know or love Gwen should be worried unless you instantly fell in love with her in a day. She had recently learned that even love spells didn't work that fast. The accusatory sound of the question hung in the air while Daniel searched for an answer. I can't explain it, but when I thought she was my sister, I tried to turn it into something else. But when Dr. Watkins said negative, you love her? Rachel's tone was scornful and full of Shirley-style judgment. You don't even know her. Are you insane? Rachel, it's hard to explain, but we shared some very personal secrets with each other. We connected somehow. It was just that Gwen had all her hopes set on this alternate family thing. She couldn't deal with any other outcome. She doesn't need another family. She doesn't need you. Rachel was becoming indignant. I just want to be in her life. She doesn't have to fall madly in love with me. I just want to be her friend. I want to find her and make sure she's okay and bring her home. Daniel exhaled in frustration. She was so upset. Gotta love the insta-love. I think this author puts Colleen Hoover to shame with how fast these two fell in love. Rachel says that Gwen will email her at some point and thanks Daniel. I would have called the cops on him if it seemed like my sister had fled the country to get rid of him, but she's not me, so. And now we're in Daniel's POV because Rachel doesn't need her own chapter. It ends with him on the plane. Yada yada. Chapter 25. Gwen's in the hotel with Henry. Henry, I don't usually, nor have I, my sweet. I usually ply women with dinner and cocktails before I invite them back to my flat, chuckled Henry. I've never asked a woman to move in with me after a bottle of water and some nibbly. Gwen laughed nervously. This place is beautiful, though. I guess I'm just jet-lagged and starting to think all of the shit I left behind. And I'm starting to think of all the shit I left behind. It's shite, love. Shite sounds much more continental. Henry smiled. Why don't you have a wash-up and I'll arrange for some food to be sent up. Then, of course, I'll make good on my promise to help you forget all the shite back in the colonies. That sounds lovely. Gwen grabbed her quart-sized bag and some fresh clothes and made a beeline for the tub. When she emerged 45 minutes later, she felt like a new woman. Henry let out a slow exhale and nodded approvingly. By Jove, I think she's got it. Good to know every country is just as annoying in this book. They start to have sex. She asks if he has a condom. He has a box. Thank fuck, because we do not need a baby brought into this nightmare. He kissed Gwen's lips, her neck, and her décolletage. Sorry, that's so unsexy. What? As he pulled her arms up over her head, her shirt rode up and exposed her stomach. He slid his hand down past her breast and gently pulled the shirt up over Gwen's head. He kissed every inch of her stomach. His tongue drew hot circles on her flesh. Why are we saying flesh? That's also not sexy. Whatever. Henry pulled his own shirt off and Gwen marveled at the perfection of his chest. She reached up to run her hands across the planes of his torso, but Henry caught her hands in his, kissed them gently, and pushed them back over her head. Gwen could feel herself getting lost in the moment. When Henry slid her pants off and threw them on the floor, she wiggled in anticipation. It was at that moment that her left brain threw a giant wrench into the operation. Do you have protection? That's where we are. Yeah, the sex scene is just bad. That's all. It's just not good. You got a taste. I'm not reading the rest. Ick. Most of these aren't even that detailed anyway. Gwen realizes she should have told her sister where she went. You fucking think you had at least 18 and a half hours on the flight to think about that, but instead you just didn't. It doesn't last long because Gwen is back to thinking about how she wants to fuck Daniel. The satisfaction quickly gave way to worry. She should have called Rachel. She should have simply stayed in the hotel in the Twin Cities. Should have left a message for Daniel. There was just so much shite. How did she feel about Daniel? She had never dreamed of a brother, and she had to admit her feelings had trouble finding a sisterly tone. Gwen thought back to the crazy night out with Rachel. She couldn't blame everything on alcohol. She had to admit that she had been flirting with the mystery man, half hidden in the shadows, long before the serious inebriation had taken hold. Daniel was handsome, accomplished, and wealthy. That didn't sound bad on paper, but Gwen didn't want a knight in shining armor. Gwen wanted vindication. She wanted to know once and for all that she had come from something better than Ed and Shirley. Gwen indulged herself in another of her endless alternative reality daydreams. Yeah, she's then thinking about her shitty parents because that's the theme of this trip, and she has a little fantasy. It's... Whoa. Chapter 26. Daniel has arrived in New Zealand. Those poor Kiwis. Todd is telling him on the phone that she hasn't rented a car or anything because she decided to have a fling with a Brit that could be Jack the Ripper. He doesn't know that yet, but whatever. There are no foreign charges on her account. Todd and Flora should be hired for the FBI. If you hoped that someone in this book wasn't racist, have I got news for you. The wide central aisle between the shops was filled with tourists, business commuters, and native New Zealanders. Daniel searched his memory. Maoris, he said at last. The woman at the next table looked up in confusion, and Daniel just smiled pleasantly and hid behind his coffee. Daniel remembered reading about the Maoris. I'm sorry. If I'm saying it wrong, I'm so sorry. I'm trying so hard. When he was doing research on tribal art, it seemed they got shafted similar to the Native American Indians. The white man landed on Aotearoa. I'm so sorry. I'll put it up because if I can. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And began taking land and killing natives. It always bothered Daniel that history was written by the victors. He imagined the Maori version of New Zealand's, I almost said New England because that's where I'm from, Jesus, New Zealand's history was slightly different from the popular British Empire version. In some ways, though, the Maori seemed to be making headway, getting slightly better reparations than their Northern Hemisphere counterparts. Leave Native Americans out of this atrocity. Native Americans and the Maori have been through enough. There's more racism where the guy is telling him where Gwen went, and may I remind you that most of New Zealand speaks English. Anyway, he figured out she went off with some British tourist, and he tells Todd his literal name. Like, why would this man who works at the airport give him that information? It doesn't make sense.
What the hell? That doesn't even make sense!
Chapter 27. Henry and Gwen are going on an adventure. They're going on a helicopter ride. You could not pay me to get in a helicopter, but there we are. They're not me. No one in this book is making good decisions. Her mind drifted off to questions about her sensible, cautious life. She'd been trained to please others first, to let other people's opinions carry far more weight than her own. When she looked back at her life, she knew she had been set up, plain and simple. That day in July, the day she was born, her exuberant Grandma Carlson had initiated the clever ruse. Gwendolyn was lying in the hospital bassinet, innocently unaware. Outside the glass, Grandma Carlson was convincing Ed that his new baby girl was a genius. When do you ever put anyone first? Even when you're pretending to support your sister, you're busy thinking about yourself. Did you think about literally anyone else any point if it wasn't about you? No, you didn't. And if you did, you made it about you. She can't even enjoy the helicopter ride because she's too busy thinking about her parents. Surprise, surprise. Care for a kiss before lunch, Henry winked. Gwen smiled and nodded. Henry leaned down, brushed a tear from her cheek, and kissed her soft lips. Tingles of last night washed over Gwen and pulled her back into the magical, mind-numbing beauty of New Zealand. If you could bottle that, you could put the makers of Abilify out of business, Gwen grinned. And Viagra, added Henry with a chuckle. There's only so much I can take, guys. I can't. Chapter 28. Rachel is starting to lose it because she hasn't heard from her sister in 2 days. That must be pretty alarming when you can't even take a shit without letting your sister know. She calls Daniel to try and get an update. Daniel tells her that Gwen was very upset the last time he saw her. She says she didn't know Gwen was so unhappy, but as Gwen doesn't tell her things, how would she know that? Nothing else happens because Rachel chapters aren't allowed to be interesting. It's the law. Chapter 29. Henry and Gwen are going to a museum and a botanical garden. Honestly, take me on this trip instead of Gwen. I won't have sex with you, but I won't be annoying. And you can listen to me drop random facts about whatever I'm currently interested in. And I think that's better than any tepid lovemaking. Let me tell you about turkey vultures. I'll change your mind. We find out Henry is there to write a travel guide. It's boring. How do you know so much about New Zealand? Gwen probed. Good question. I do suppose you might like to know a bit more about your host, Henry continued. I write for a travel guide. I'm here to do a quick check for new hotels, changes in restaurant ownership, new attractions, and the like. Wow, that sounds interesting. Of course, I'll have to add an entire chapter about the dangers of loose women traveling alone, smirked Henry. I hope all the hot women who love casual sex stay as far away from you as possible. Ladies, get something from Bellessa. I'm not sponsored, but I can vouch, and they won't say dumb, sexist shit like this. Please sponsor me, Bellessa. Daniel is following them to Hamilton. I'm not sure why he went that way, but at this point, I'm nearly done questioning everything about this book. Todd calls and tells Daniel about Henry's job. Todd should work for the CIA. Todd lied and told people that Gwen was his bipolar sister who skipped the country without her meds. Honestly, a little smart, if not ableist, though. We're back to Gwen because we can't have consistent POVs. They are at the museum and they are irritating. Yes, quite similar. These carvings depict the lineage. Each face represents a specific ancestor in the tribe. The whole series is a genealogy. Henry put his arm around Gwen. Do you find this interesting, or are you just indulging a silly Brit? I bloody love it, you wanker, Gwen grinned. I'm afraid that's far more vulgar than you might think. Henry shook his finger disapprovingly at Gwen, but his eyes twinkled with mirth. If I worked at this museum, I would end it all if I heard that. I'm fine. I'm not emotionally unwell, I promise. Back to Daniel because, again, no one can have their own POV without being interrupted. Someone offers information about where they could have gone, like what's around there. I would have just ignored him and or called the police. Back to Gwen because, again, this author loves to torture me. Gwen is like, I should call my sister. Rachel answered the phone right away even though she is woken up. The time difference must be brutal. Rachel starts crying immediately. Duh, she probably thought Gwen got kidnapped or murdered or maybe even, ended it or whatever. Gwen is mad when she finds out Daniel is in New Zealand. This better be good. Rachel's sleepy voice was gruff. Sorry to wake you, Rach, it's Gwen. Rachel was instantly alert. Gwenny, where are you? Shit, I was going crazy. Are you okay? I thought Rachel was crying. Gwen managed another I'm sorry, and she was crying too. Just hearing Rachel's shaky breathing and listening to her blow her nose warmed Gwen's aching heart. Gotta love the lesbian sister suffering. I miss you, Rach. I just couldn't handle it. I know. I met with that Daniel guy. It's okay. I know. You don't have to talk about it, Rachel reassured her. The words filtered through Gwen's tears. What do you mean you know? What do you know? Gwen's tears stopped abruptly. Daniel was worried you were so upset. He just didn't think you should be alone. He's only trying to help, pleaded Rachel. Gwen didn't think it was the right time to inform Rachel that she wasn't alone. How exactly is Daniel helping? Gwen's voice was stern. Rachel explained the calls, explained how Flora and Todd were working together, and explained how Daniel had flown to New Zealand to find Gwen. He's in New Zealand? If Henry had stayed in the hotel room, the panic in Gwen's voice would have sent him racing to her side. But he was in the hotel bar, tucked into a pint of ale and some nibblies. Gwen, calm down. He thinks he loves you. The words were out before Rachel could stop them. That's just sick, Rachel. He loves his own sister. Gwen spat out the words. Gwen, sweetie, you know you're not his sister. Rachel stated the obvious with as much tenderness as she could muster. I know. Gwen's voice was a whisper, and the sobs that followed shook Gwen's body for several minutes. Gwenny, I love you. Rachel's voice cracked with emotion. Thanks, Rach. I don't deserve you. Gwen took a few raspy breaths. I hope you understand I wasn't trying to replace you. I was trying to get rid of Ed and Shirley. We've both wished for better parental units, Gwenny. I guess I just never understood how seriously you took your wishing. Yeah, I'm a bit of a nutter, laughed Gwen. A what? Oh, it's just, it means a crazy person, Gwen quickly finished. Oof. Rachel tells Gwen she's having an affair with a married woman. Gwen calls her a slut. What a time to be alive. Daniel is probably fantastic, but I met him as my father. Thought he might be my brother. Found out the whole thing was a dream that didn't come true. I don't know if I can recategorize him. He said best friends. Maybe I could manage that. Gwen's mind wandered back to the Colonial Inn. There had been sparks. At the time, she assured herself it was the excitement of the looming test results, and the misplaced feelings would need to be reinterpreted as she got to know her brother. He wasn't her brother. No reinterpretation required. That almost made sense. It's nice to see Gwen have a twinge of self-awareness. Don't worry, it probably won't last long. Rachel wants her to come back, but Gwen says she needs to work some things out first. Rachel is now into Wicca. I'm now questioning my will to live.
Life is a prison, existence is a prison.
Rachel asks Gwen about Daniel, and it's like, so weird. It's her deciding it's a sensible decision that I'm sure everyone will stick to, and she won't make out with Daniel at all. Rachel tells her she has to go to bed. Rachel calls Daniel to give him an update, and we immediately have to suffer a Daniel POV. It's not important. It's the same old drivel. Chapter 30. Gwen is up the next morning, and Henry is there. Joy. The sun was bright and golden when Gwen awoke. Tea? Henry asked from the breakfast nook. I'm starving. You're working me like a dog. Yes, that was perhaps one of our more interesting poses, teased Henry. I'm starting to think the heteros don't deserve rights. This is a joke. Don't come for me, heteros. This doesn't last long because Daniel interrupts our Gwen POV. They're all at the same botanical garden now. I feel bad for the plants. They don't deserve this. We're back to Gwen, who's talking to Henry. It's pretty boring. Gwen, the past few days, well, it's a bit hard to explain. I know, I just feel so relaxed with you, so free. Gwen rubbed her nose playfully on Henry's. Hi, I'm back. I have 2 full-time jobs, so if you don't want a relatable YouTuber who has to film on multiple different days, I don't know what to tell you. Then don't worry, we're back to Daniel for exactly 1 paragraph. He's seen Gwen and Henry kissing, and instead of talking to her after he flew across the whole world to talk to her, he just turns around and leaves like this is a romance movie. You just blew more than $1,400 just for the plane ride, and you're not even going to ask her if she's okay? Of course not. She doesn't want to have sex with you, so why would you bother? At least you and Gwen have something in common. You're both entirely self-serving. Also, I just want to note that I know that this book seems to be trying to do omniscient third person, which if you don't know what that is, it's like the third person POV where everyone knows what everyone is thinking because the narrator does, right? Hold on, I have to stop my puppy from doing an idiot thing. Yeah, but I would just like to tell you that an example of third person omniscient is Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, which is a fantastic book. I adore her work, but like this, it just feels like we're switching into people's heads willy-nilly so that we could just information dump, and so we can also get what everyone's feeling all at the same time. You don't have to tell me what Daniel's feeling for me to know that he's upset and unhappy. We could have not done this, but whatever. Gwen almost sees him, but doesn't. Henry spills the beans that he's married. Shocker. This book is filled to the brim with cheating. What this book is really doing is cheating me out of multiple hours of my life. She was going to hit him, but instead started sobbing. She's very bitter about him being married, which is stupid because you wanted no strings attached lady, but she wouldn't be Gwen if she didn't put all her hopes into a man she literally just met. How silly of me. He goes to the airport. Here's the email she writes to Rachel. From gwen.theorganizer@hotmail.com to mybakedalaska@gmail.com. Dear Rach, I guess I should take my own effing, but it's censored. Anyway, advice. Henry, the young sex machine, is married. I knew it was too good to be true. Things were going too good. I mean, things never go this good for me with men. I ignored all the red flags. Handsome, young, good in bed, so good. Frowny face emoji. Funny, intelligent, wealthy, I think, ... What was I thinking? I don't get men like that. I'm just going to be a cranky old maid living alone with 40 cats and knitting Afghans. I hate my life. For a minute, I hoped Daniel would find me and rescue me. F that. I'm going to rescue my damn self and all men can get bent. Is there a lesbian training program? I don't think I am, but maybe. I'm obviously a horrible failure with men. I miss you, ... a lot. Right soon. Love, your pathetic sister, Gwen. P.S. I rented a Vodafone for emergencies. Here's the number. That's like a fake number. Hey babe, the lesbians don't want you. There is no training program. The only people who believe in conversion therapy are straight people. Also, get bent. Chapter 31. Daniel decides to get shit-faced on the plane. We get a boring page about the steward asking him if he wants other stuff, and I'm not interested. If only Daniel would have a heart attack and die on the plane. He's stewing about Gwen and Henry, despite the fact that he also barely knows her. Todd is worried on the phone. I would be worried too if my income was tied to this deadbeat and his whims. Todd comes to get him, and Daniel is slurring his words and shit-faced. Daniel wants more booze. Surprise, surprise. Todd calls people and gets all the booze out of Daniel's house. He calls someone to help him get Daniel into bed and plans to drug Daniel with Ambien, which I think probably won't mix well with alcohol. We then get way too many paragraphs of him calling people. We get one paragraph about Rachel and finally get some justice. A lesbian is allowed to interrupt with her POV. Hallelujah! It's just about the email though, so it's stupid. We are right back to Todd answering Daniel's phone when Rachel calls. Rachel has questions. Todd tells her Daniel is too drunk to answer them and that he came home alone. Todd told her he'd call back when he had more information. Rachel immediately emails Gwen because of course she does. From Rachel to Gwen, I'm not reading their stupid emails. What the F, sis? That one's not spelled out. It just says F, capital. Daniel is back, apparently drunk off his ass. His snarky assistant Todd wouldn't even let me talk to Daniel. Did you turn him down? Did you slap his face? Did Henry punch him out? I gotta know. I'm freaked. Love ya, Rach. Come up for a second. This is my boy, Sesame. Hello. He's my only boy. Oh, he's so sweet. He wants to be up here for that, so he's got me, but he's very heavy. Chapter 32. Gwen is stewing still. She sends Rachel this email. Never saw Daniel, not coming home. Henry the bloody wanker, not ruining my pity party / vacation. Be back soon. Gotta get things organized in my mind. Leaving heart in state of chaos for time being. See you soon, Gwen. P.S. Drop the Daniel thing, freak. She talks to a random 7-year-old while she's out in Fort Worth. Gwen deadass asks this kid if he has a girlfriend. Gotta teach heteronormativity early. Her sister is the only queer allowed in the world. She remembers another boy she was into, but it's uneventful. It's pretty concerning, though, that a 7-year-old made you think of romance, but okay. She goes on a bushwalk after talking to a tree. Oh, she's doing great. She goes to the beach because who knows? Chapter 33. Todd is back at Daniel's place. Both the housekeeper and the guy he called are there. Frankie, the guy, helps him in the house, and we're treated to this. Mr. Gregory, Todd peeked around the wall of the walk-in shower. Mr. Gregory, I'm over here. I need you to cooperate with Frankie. I need you to wake up. I'm going to make you some coffee. Black like I like my men. More gurgling. Insert the slur here from Frankie. Gotta get in as many homophobic slurs as we can, right guys? Surprisingly, any trans ones are missing, thank God. Todd is now on my shit list because he likes this guy who is a homophobe. Todd gets what happened out of Daniel. Todd asks some hard-hitting questions. Do you think there is any possibility you misinterpreted things? Todd, don't patronize me. I saw them. Lovers embrace, intimate kisses. I saw it. Daniel's voice was hurt and angry. No, Mr. Gregory, I mean before, with Miss Hutchinson. Todd tried to be gentle. Daniel forced himself to think back over the brief moments he had shared with Gwen. That's Aaliyah itching her ear. Aaliyah, knock it off. Daniel forced himself to think over the brief moments he had shared with Gwen. She had been confused and preoccupied, but the spark was real. The connection could not be trivialized. She was just focused on different things. I felt a connection, Todd. There was something between us. Why this woman, Mr. Gregory? There are plenty of women in Minneapolis. Why are you obsessing about this one? I'm not obsessing. You flew to New Zealand. Do I need more proof? Todd was shaking his head. No. Then why? Why her? Why now? It just has to be a guy who's okay with homophobes who has the best reasoning in this book. Huh. I doubt that. You see, Mr. Gregory, apparently later that same evening, this Henry fellow, the bloody wanker is the term Rachel used, revealed to Miss Hutchinson that he was a married man. Todd's sardonic smirk punctuated the last line. I'll kill him. Daniel's voice was gravely and menacing. Yes, just what she needs. Some guy misogynistically feeling ownership of her because he decided he had the hots for her when he thought she was his sister. And they say romance is dead. Todd, if you were a woman, I'd kiss you on the lips. Yes, and then drink yourself into oblivion upon my rejection. Better if we avoided that spiral. Todd sucks now, but he's kind of an icon. Todd is sending Daniel to therapy and has already scheduled it. Good. How can this be the only character with any sense? I wish I were Annie right now, blissfully away from this plot with some blue-haired hottie. Chapter 34. Rachel calls Gwen even though it's expensive. Gwen guesses that Danica is leaving her husband, but this is false. She broke it off with Danica on Gwen's advice. Honestly, cheating is bad, but I don't think I would ever take Gwen's advice after this. If she were my sister, I would never let her live this down. Yeah, yikes. What are you gonna do? Rachel was secretly rooting for Daniel. Barf. I'm not sure. I'll have a long plane ride to sort it all out. You're coming home? Rachel didn't even bother to hide her excitement. I'll find a payphone at Bradley International after I clear customs. Thanks, Rach. I miss you, Gwenny. I miss you too. Bye, Rach. Yay, Gwen's coming home. It must have been so difficult without her selfish ass. Rachel calls Todd to tell him that Gwen is getting on a plane the next day. Gwen's coming back. Rachel was too excited to wait for Todd's overprotective Daniel speech. When Todd was on high alert, his entire body tense and ready for action. She's getting on a plane today, which is tomorrow over there, so I think that means she'll be home tomorrow here, because that would be, yes, Rachel, I am familiar with the machinations of the time-space continuum. Damn, Todd, if you weren't okay with homophobes, we could have been friends.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you?
Rachel recommends a therapist. Rachel is on Daniel's side for some reason, probably because we've all been conditioned that being single is the worst thing that could ever happen to a person. I think that Gwen should be single for at least 5 years. We find out that Rachel was fat and that's why she hates donuts. It's stupid as fuck. Chapter 35. At the airport, Gwen decides to make a pros and cons list about Daniel. How romantic. That's it. That's the chapter. I mean, she thought about another guy she dated, but I'm sick of it and it was boring, honestly. It's just the same shit over and over. Chapter 36. Daniel feels like shit after he binge drank. What a surprise. Todd slept over because he's a nice man. We get some stuff about Todd calling the doctor for him. It's boring, it's annoying, it's cringy. They make an appointment for 2 p.m. Daniel is making pancakes, probably to try and get out of accountability. The chapter ends with Todd calling Frankie the homophobe a living saint. Barf. Chapter 37. There are some weird old people at the airport, and an Asian woman named Lucy saves Gwen from them. Lucy is only here to play the Asian wise woman who makes Gwen realize things about herself and compliments Gwen, even though there's no reason to at all. Lucy tells Gwen that she should transfer the name of her business back to the company so she can have a life. Why Gwen didn't already at least have an LLC set up with the name when she runs the business and has employees is beyond me. Gwen, I didn't mean to offend you. I just think life is for the living. I tack personal days onto every trip I take for the company. The experiences I've had and the people I've met, well, it makes my life satisfying, you know? Gwen was surprised to discover that she didn't know. She had just kept herself busy organizing everyone else so she wouldn't have to look at the monstrous mess her own life had become. I didn't even think about things that way. Are you for real? Are you some fairy godmother or something? Serendipity, Gwen. Lucy smiled and looked at her watch. You better get to the gate. It was an honor to meet you. When are you actually at work, though? When are you actually organizing anyone else's stuff? Why are you lying? If you hear rustling, that's my puppy Sesame again. He's really annoying. I love him though. We love him. They hug when they split up, which is crazy. Also, Gwen had more chemistry with Lucy than with any of the men. What is this? Rachel is waiting for a call from Gwen, so she answers the phone, but it's their mother complaining about Gwen not answering her either. Rachel lies and says Gwen lost her phone. It's stupid. Her mom asks Rachel to tell Gwen to call her. So fascinating. I'm so glad we get to read about so many phone calls that are mostly pointless. We find out when Gwen is on the phone with Rachel again that she just threw her cell phone out in her apartment trash. It's so stupid. Rachel is going to pick Gwen up even though Gwen doesn't want her to pick her up. Gwen gets on the plane. Chapter 38. Daniel is at his therapist appointment. If I wanted to experience another therapy appointment, I would sign back up with my man, David. They start talking, and because Todd made the appointment, she asks if he and Todd are together. Brenda made a few quick notes. Todd seems like more than an assistant. Are you two involved? What? Oh, no. I mean, I support people having the choice or whatever. It's just not my choice. Daniel's eyes darted around the room as he struggled to make his hey, I'm straight point without sounding like a bigot. Too late for that, my guy. Just about all of you sound bigoted in some way. Also, sexuality is not a choice. It's disgusting to insinuate that it is. If you think it is because you're attracted to everyone, boy, have I got some news for you. He then tells the therapist about the Gwen situation. Daniel, when did you decide you loved Gwen as more than a sister? When I opened my front door, I was crushed when I thought she might be my sister. I mean, I longed for family, but my feelings for her were already way down the road in the other direction. I felt pretty uncomfortable. Did you tell Gwen how you felt? Brenda's eyes searched Daniel's face. He looked away. I couldn't. Daniel shook his head. She wanted the test results to be positive. She wanted a new family more than anything. And when the test results came back, she ran away, just disappeared. I couldn't take it. I had to find her. I was so worried. Daniel looked at Brenda. Todd says I obsessed. In a manner of speaking, smiled Brenda. So you flew off to New Zealand to find Gwen. Brenda waited for Daniel's confirmation. What did you plan to say to her? I didn't plan to say anything. Daniel's eyes drifted off to a faraway place. I just planned to hold her while she cried, to stroke her velvety auburn hair and kiss her porcelain forehead. I just wanted to be the reason she stopped crying. You wanted her to love you. Brenda's voice was filled with compassion. Is that wrong? Daniel's eyes begged for absolution. No, Daniel, it's not wrong. The issue isn't about right or wrong. The issue is finding common ground. You and Gwen are in very different emotional spaces. She has lost a father that she has dreamed of for decades. You have lost a lover that you never knew you needed. What do you mean common ground? In order for Gwen to see you as a potential partner, she has to stop seeing you as her brother, or rather a representation of the family she should have had. Do you understand? Daniel nodded. But how do I do that? She can't. Gwen has to do it for herself. The therapist insists on seeing him the next day, even though he thinks that's enough. Dude, it is nowhere near enough. You flew to New Zealand for a woman you just met. Stay in therapy. She wants to talk about his first wife tomorrow, which I think is a little fast for that level of trauma. but at least someone is therapizing him. Chapter 39. Rachel picks Gwen up from the airport in her delivery van because she couldn't find her car keys. She wants Gwen to tell her everything, which, when you're as close as they are, makes sense. Unfortunately, Rachel is asking about sex. Okay, tell me everything, grinned Rachel. There's not much to tell, Rachel. I just went to a tree park and got some shells. Not that, freak. I want to hear about how perfect little organized Gwenny took up with Henry the Bloody Wanker and had a sordid affair. Honestly, Rach, Gwen was turning several shades of red. Was it good? The sex? Gwen exhaled. All right, Christ God, do I really have to relive these painful memories? Oh, was it not good? How bad was he? Rach, you're gay. Why do you even want to hear about my breeder sex? Nice word, Gwenny. You learned that on the interwebs. Rachel cracked herself up. You're a corker, Gwenny Hutchinson. Quite a corker. Rachel laughed louder. Gwenny, sex is sex. Was it hot and steamy or not? The breeder line might be the only line in the whole book that I liked. And if you want to make friends with me, do not talk to me about it ever. Rachel tells Gwen about her affair with the married woman. Thankfully, I don't have to hear about it because there are no details. Gwen asks how Daniel is doing. Rachel tells Gwen she should go to therapy too, and they get in a fight. Gwen, you lost your dream. You have to face the fact that Ed and Shirley actually are your biological parents. No, I don't. I could have been switched at birth, Gwen laughed. You know what, Gwen? Screw you. Rachel's eyes spilled over with angry tears. Screw you. I have to deal with the fact that they're my parents every day. They don't even know I'm gay, Rachel sobbed. The only two people in the world who don't know I'm gay. Gwen reached out to put a hand on Rachel's shoulder, but Rachel furiously swatted the hand away. You have everything. You're smart, you can get married and have kids, and they'll just love you even more. Don't you understand, Gwen? I can never have that. I can never make them happy. I'm the eternal damned disappointment. Rachel is right. Gwen could be herself more easily if she found the right guy that her parents would accept. Rachel cannot be herself around their parents, and Gwen calling Rachel selfish, which she does right after, is hilarious considering Gwen has spent this entire book thinking about no one except herself. She then has the audacity to tell Rachel that she's like their mother. Rachel drops her off and speeds away like an icon. Gwen gets home and listens to some of the messages Rachel sent her, the beginning ones where Rachel wants to tell her about her hookups. Rachel had left 217 messages, mind you. Gwen at least admits she is being selfish. Chapter 40. Gwen decides to go to work, but at this point, why bother? I just don't get it. Nothing is running less smoothly with you gone, clearly. Flora tells her she was worried. Flora has been really stepping up to the plate. Dean, the ex they were going to organize for, canceled the job because he's getting divorced. Very important information, guys. They kept 50% of his deposit. Woo. Gwen tells Flora she wants to be her to be general manager, Flora, and that they're going to make it the Organizer Inc. Lucy is living in her head rent-free, I see. Chapter 41. Daniel goes back to therapy to talk about his dead wife. Don't worry, we have to speed run the therapy arc, guys. She was killed while she was with Doctors Without Borders. This just feels like manipulation for me to like Daniel more, but spoiler alert, it didn't work. He laments about how he didn't want to go with her because he was afraid of going to a war-torn country. This is fair, but him lying to her about it was shitty. The doctor asks him to tell her 3 things he loved about Angelina. This is dumb, but the therapist does drop some wisdom. Daniel, if you had forbidden Angeline from going to Rwanda, would she have stayed home? Brenda leaned back and made a quick note. Daniel's laugh was loud and bitter. She would have left me and never looked back. Daniel, I think you need to stop blaming yourself for Angeline's death. She was yours to love, but she wasn't yours to keep in a cage. You loved her fierce independence, and she loved that you set her free. Brenda gazed at Daniel's troubled face. She could almost see the wheels turning, the arguments back and forth. She then ruins the advice with this horse shit. Daniel, I think Angeline died doing what she believed in. No matter what happened in that camp, I think it's safe to say that her last breath was spent thanking you for loving her for who she really was. What the actual fuck? I don't think this author has ever been to a therapist. This is probably not the last thing that Angeline fucking thought. before dying with a kid in Rwanda. He is not the center of the universe. But don't worry, guys. Daniel feels all better, and that's all that matters. We just need him to run off to fuck the woman he thought was his sister. Chapter 42. Rachel is finally mad at Gwen, and it's about fucking time. Rachel was furious at Gwen. Rachel had never been selfish. That was ridiculous. It wasn't her fault if her stories were more interesting than anyone else's. Was she just supposed to sit by and listen to someone blather on about the stock market when she had talked her way out of a speeding ticket by flirting with a female cop that turned out to be gay? Rachel wasn't selfish. She was concerned about everyone having a good time. Gwen was a pompous, prudish bitch. You know what? My homegirl's right. Someone knocks at the bakery door and it turns out to be Annie. Remember Annie, the cheating ex who hasn't been in the majority of the book? Good times. I wonder what she wants. They kiss like almost immediately. It doesn't make any sense, but okay. Annie offers to help with baking bread because Rachel has to open soon. She said she needs to talk to her, so I bet this will be good. Did you leave something at the loft? Rachel wasn't eager to let Annie open old wounds. Yeah, my best friend. Annie looked into Rachel's eyes and let the tears fall. Rachel threw her flour-covered arms around Annie and squeezed her like a favorite stuffed animal. Can't breathe, giggled Annie. Rachel pulled back a few inches and kissed Annie gently on her perfectly plump, naturally soft lips. Annie kissed back hungrily, apologetically. Rachel, are you going to let me in or what? I'm making bread. We open in an hour. We're going to skip to the part where they're actually talking. First, I want to know why you're back. Then you can help me make mini sweet rolls for the singles mixer at my parents' church tonight, laughed Rachel. I freaked out. I was a serial womonogamist before I met you, Rachel. I just kept moving, never getting serious. Then I met you. Annie was pacing around the kitchen. I was feeling like half of a couple instead of like a whole me, and I freaked. I needed space. So the loft, why did you want to buy property with me? Rachel looked confused. I thought if I had more physical space, I could keep myself separate from you, remain an individual. But I kept slipping deeper into the relationship. So I sabotaged it the only way I knew how. I cheated. I know, Rachel looked hurt. I know, and I hated myself for hurting you. Once I had gone that far, it was easy to convince myself you'd be better off without me. Annie's words were racing out of her mouth. I thought I was doing you a favor. Gee, thanks. Rachel clapped flour off her hands and shook her head. Was I right? Annie's eyes crinkled with worry as she waited for the answer. Were you better off? No, you stupid D-slur. I was miserable. Me too. Out of all the things that happened in this book, getting back with a cheater is somehow the least absurd. I hate it, but here we are. Chapter 43. Gwen is sad. Maybe it's because she's never worked on herself a day in her life. That might have something to do with it. Gwen calls Todd the traitor. She asks to leave a message for Daniel. Daniel instead comes on the phone all excited. They decide to meet up for lunch. Todd is worried about Daniel getting drunk. I'm more worried about this. Todd was fuming. Daniel was pacing like a caged tiger. Just keep it casual, Mr. Gregory. Todd, relax, it's Perkins, okay? Not a bar. I'm not going to get her drunk and have my way with her. Daniel's eyes turned sultry. Although, wow, a rape joke from our male love interest. Is this author friends with Colleen and Penelope? Todd urges Daniel to try to just be friends. I am urging Todd to rid the world of Daniel's filth. Gwen and Daniel are checking each other out. It's gross. Daniel flirts with the elderly waitress to make Gwen jealous. Gwen ordered fries with sour cream, which is exactly how I'd picture hell. No, I learned something about myself today. I don't know if it's okay for me to know it. I mean, my therapist didn't actually say it, but I connected the dots. Daniel took a deep breath. Good she didn't flip out at the word therapist. I wasn't able to save my late wife, Angeline, and I was unable to save my dad, so I guess when you took off so upset, I put all of those feelings of inadequacy into your situation. I convinced myself that I could rescue you and it would somehow make up for Angeline and my dad. Daniel paused. Gwen said nothing. Kind of stupid, huh? Yeah, I don't think that's what was really happening, but whatever helps you sleep at night, I guess. Daniel, I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't know anything about you. I would never judge your actions. Gwen was trying to process the pain and loss Daniel had endured twice. Do you want to tell me what happened? I mean, Gwen's eyes were full of sympathy. Some other time. I just lived through one telling today. I don't think I can do it again. Besides, I'd really like to talk about us. I just wanted you to know why I became a freak show stalker, frame of reference, and all that bullshit. Daniel's laugh was like a favorite shirt, soothing and comforting. I actually liked the stalker thing, a real turn on, you know. I'm glad you didn't find me. When people dilated with the panic of stepping on her own tongue. I mean, or didn't say anything, or shit. Talk now, Daniel. Well, I'm judging his actions, and I think he should be in prison. They decide they should finally get to know each other. I think they should both be separated. This section just repeats things we already know about, so nothing is interesting for the reader. They agree to be just friends, but then he kisses her immediately because he truly is a stalker with no sense of boundaries. They drive away to hook up, predictably. Chapter 44. Todd is on the search for Daniel because he is an irresponsible toddler who needs constant supervision. Just kidding. That's insulting to toddlers. He is relieved to know someone else is on watch Daniel duty. Daniel and Gwen are having sex. Thankfully, it is not detailed, so I don't need to share it with you. Chapter 45. Annie and Rachel are all happy together. When is it my turn to be happy? The chapter is boring and short, and they both promise to leave their mistakes behind them. Chapter 46. Todd calls Flora to check up on Gwen and Daniel. Flora hasn't heard anything because she's busy and one of the only people in this book with a real job. Todd offers to come help, probably because he's bored. They planned a grand reopening for the organizer, but it's boring. Daniel is going to make Gwen pancakes, then thinks to call Todd. If I'd known you had a boyfriend, I never would have brought you home, yelled Gwen. Haha, gay jokes. If I were near you, I would gut punch you, Gwen. Just a moment, Mr. Gregory. Todd turned to Flora. Flora, let's schedule that interview for 2 p.m. and bring the interns in at 3 p.m. Todd turned back to the phone. You were saying, once again, Todd, if you were a woman, I'd sue you for sexual harassment. I'm glad that someone knows that Daniel is ugly and gross. Nothing serious, I'm sure. Todd prefers this situation to picking me off a barroom floor. Alcoholic? Gwen tried to sound casual. No, my therapist tells me I'm a drama king, laughed Daniel. I just use alcohol to get attention because it works. If I had tried X or crack the first time, I guess I'd have taken a different path. Daniel shrugged his shoulders. So we're working on getting comfortable with speaking the truth and asking for what I need, you know? So I don't have to get blind drunk to tell people what I really want. Yeah, no, you're an alcoholic. As someone who lived with one parent who is, you are. Your therapist is a hack. Chapter 48. Annie decides to ask Rachel to come out to her bigoted parents, because all lesbians in 2013 were definitely demanding this. Rachel appropriately freaks out. Rachel, though, caves within 2 seconds. She says she has to talk to Gwen first. Can't you ever make a decision without your sister's approval? Annie had felt a little threatened by Gwen's influence on Rachel's life. I agree with Annie, but this is not the conversation for that. Rachel calls Gwen. Gwen apologizes, and Rachel does too. Rachel doesn't have anything to apologize for, but here we are. Rachel tells Gwen she's back with Annie, and Gwen is happy about this. Some sister. Gwen does offer to go with her to the coming out, but Rachel tells her not to. Annie is going to go, though. Gwen says she is proud of her, which I guess is nice to say, but ew. Chapter 49. Their mom shows up at Gwen's work. Todd can't stand her. Join the club. She is nosy and wants to know what Daniel Jr. is doing with her daughter. It's stupid. She decides to wait in Gwen's office. Chapter 50. Gwen drops Daniel off at his car at the restaurant. They want to see each other again right after his appointment. I wish I had as much free time as these people, but instead I have 2 jobs, living the American dream. Hey Gwen, you left these photos at my place. You keep them. It's your dad's work. It'll mean more to you. Gwen was proud of her new grown-up attitude. That's the thing. There's one photo in there that's not my dad's stuff. Gwen walked back toward his car. What do you mean? Daniel opened the package and slid out the odd photo. See this one? It's a wall mural. Totally different than my dad's style. Plus, look at the date on the border. Daniel turned it so Gwen could read the date. It's 1 month earlier than the others. What the hell was Shirley up to? Gwen was furious to think that her mom had been fooling around on Ed and treating him like shit ever since. Maybe that made it okay in Shirley's mind? If Ed was worthless, maybe that's how Shirley justified her indiscretions. Gwen was sick of this woman. Daniel felt Gwen tug the photos out of his hand. Gwen, don't do anything you'll regret. You know what I regret? I regret living half a life. I regret giving up on my dreams and watching my father be beaten into submission by that insidious woman. She would never let up. She always called him a dreamer. She was always criticizing him for not making more money. She just made him feel small, and he took it because he thought she was some perfect virgin queen. Gwen was getting a full head of steam. It's about time someone pointed to the Empress and told her she had no clothes. I mean, I'm all for standing up to shitty parents, but you're so awful, I don't care about this. Chapter 51. Gwen goes home to confront her mom, but her mom is not home. She's at the office waiting for her. Her dad is home though, but she's now convinced again that he's not her dad. That happened fast. It turns out her dad was making murals back in the day. She was trying to help the dad make it in the art world like the mom. Shirley didn't cheat on him. Daniel Sr. hit on her and she punched him in the face. Honestly, iconic behavior. She says before she leaves she thinks her dad should paint again, yada yada. Chapter 52. Rachel calls her dad and schedules a time for her and Annie to come over to tell them the important news. Meanwhile, her mom is done waiting at the office. She tells Todd to say to Gwen that she stopped by. She then gets home and starts to get ready for Rachel and Annie to come over later. It's really dumb and it's just filler. You could have skipped a lot of this. Annie meets the parents and Rachel thinks her parents are going to give them a mock apple pie, which sounds like a crime, but it ends up being a real apple pie. Yes, the pie is delicious, Mrs. Hutchinson. I see where Rachel gets her flair for baking. Annie hated the sound of her own voice. Suck up a little more, Annie. I don't think she's going to give a shit about your lame compliments when she finds out you're actually eating her daughter's pie. Annie silently scolded herself. I kind of wish Annie was in more of this book because she's the only one keeping it real, aside from the lapse of judgment about Rachel coming out and the cheating. She's kind of the most sane person. Rachel just comes right out with it. Her parents react horribly. Unfortunately, when they ask about a boy she was dating, she outed him to them. So that's nice for poor Alan. Annie is eating her words and feels super uncomfortable. Rachel tells her dad that she's been gay forever. He says he'll pray for her. It's a real shit show. Chapter 53. Rachel and Annie go home and she decides to call, drumroll please, Gwen. Shocker. She admits she outed Alan, which wasn't cool. Did you really tell them everything? I even outed Alan Peterson. That probably wasn't cool, but he's been out to his parents for years, so I think it's okay. Yeah, you still can't out people to random people. That is not how that works, babes. Rachel wants Gwen and Daniel to go to a big gay Halloween party next week. How can there still possibly be Halloween celebrations? Are we in the Twilight Zone? How much time has taken place here? We now get a gross sex scene between Gwen and Daniel, because who doesn't want that after your sister told you she came out to your homophobic parents? In the morning, they decide they're going to the Halloween party. Epilogue. We're finally here. We made it. Basically, reading this book a second time has been torture. They're all dressed up sexy at the Halloween party. Goddamn, Gwendolyn Hutchinson, you beautiful whore. Rachel came screaming over in her see-through genie costume, crossed her arms over her chest, and nodded her head at Gwen. Poof, you're all kinds of sexy, master. Shut up, you little bitch. I can't believe you talked me into this. Rachel put her hand up in front of Gwen's face and wagged her other finger at Daniel. Oh, this little wolf thing is working for you. I mean, obviously, you painted the crazy awesome wolf on your own face, but who found the fur chaps? There are some boys that are gonna go home crying, their little gay eyes out. I hate all of you in this book. Not you guys, the characters. The book ends with nothing else important to say except that Alan is there and he's a drag queen. Go, Alan, run, get away from these people before it's too late. Final thoughts. This book was awful. I mean, truly terrible. There was so much happening in this book, but it was good at none of it. And the third act, getting back together with our cheating ex who suddenly wants you to come out to your homophobic, religious Midwestern parents, that was the dumbest plot point. Rachel not being out to her parents was not one of the reasons they broke up. It was pointless. They gained nothing. I gave this book 0.5 stars on Storygraph. I don't use Goodreads anymore. I only use Storygraph, so. I'm also Chevy Reads on Storygraph if you want. I'm not looking forward to editing this. The script was 32 pages. Thank you so much for watching my first video. It means so much to me. If you have the time, please like, comment, and subscribe. I had a lot of fun working on this, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye!